This Gaza peace plan is divided into 3 phases: Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3. More detail, all in the video ahead. In the first phase of the Gaza peace plan, highlighted by the yellow outline on the map, Israeli forces begin pulling out of several populated areas so that they control only about half of Gaza. This reduction comes as a hard-won ceasefire finally silences the bombs and artillery. During this period, hostage exchanges take place. The Gazan Millitants starts by releasing some Israeli hostages, while Israel responds by freeing nearly 1,900 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for 48 hostages. However, for the earliest stage, only about 20 prisoners may be released. This is where humanitarian aid begins to pour into Gaza. Around 400 trucks enter each day, helping reopen bakeries and hospitals. This surge in supplies allows many displaced families to return home, and with airstrikes paused, international organizations are able to distribute food and medicine more freely than before. As trust starts to build, the second phase is set in motion. Israeli forces withdraw even further and now govern just 40% of Gaza. At this stage, Hamas releases the remaining 28 living Israeli hostages, while Israel lets go of about 1,000 additional Palestinian prisoners, many of whom were detained after the October 7 attack. At the same time, political reforms get underway. Gaza's administration shifts temporarily to a group of technocrats backed by the international community to ensure fair and neutral governance. The work increasingly focuses on rebuilding basic infrastructure, restoring power, reliable water, and safe living conditions. In the final phase and third phase, here as you can see is the smallest zone, that is the white line. The last Israeli troops exit most of Gaza, retaining control over roughly 15% along the border. Deceased hostages and prisoners are repatriated. Here blockades and restrictions are lifted, allowing unrestricted aid and goods. Gaza moves towards stable civilian rule, free of conflict and occupation. The roadmap isn't simple. Even after all these changes, Israel will maintain control over key areas marked by a white line on the map. So a large part of Gaza remains under some level of Israeli authority, even as the peace plan tries to offer a real path forward for millions of people worn down by years of conflict and shifting frontlines. But if this plan collapses like others have before, Israel is prepared to use force to retake Gaza, and the cycle of violence could begin all over again. But why Israel has not managed to defeat the militant group for the past 3 years? Here's how their strategy has shifted. The militant group has moved away from traditional battlefield tactics and embraced a decentralized insurgent style of warfare. With many of its top commanders killed and its command centers destroyed, the group now relies on small, autonomous units operating independently. These compartmentalized cells are much harder for Israeli forces to detect and eliminate, allowing for a more agile and unpredictable approach. Guerrilla tactics have become the new standard. Ambushes, sniper fire, IED attacks, and hit-and-run raids are now their primary methods of engagement. Rather than engaging in direct confrontations, these units use Gaza's dense urban landscape to strike Israeli forces and quickly disappear before a counterattack can be launched. This decentralized structure not only keeps operations going, but also ensures that even if senior leaders are lost, the group can continue to wage its fight on multiple fronts. Despite the devastation of much of its weapons manufacturing infrastructure, Hamas has managed to salvage and repurpose equipment. Tools and components recovered from damaged tunnels and factories have allowed limited production to resume. They are once again building rockets, anti-tank missiles like the Kornet and Qassam rockets, and improvised explosive devices IED, which we will discuss further in the video on how they are made. These unexploded Israeli munitions are often converted into makeshift explosives for IED weapons. To create a psychological warfare, even under Israeli military oversight, short-range rockets are still being fired from within Gaza to create chaos. They managed to fight on because of the group's tunnel network remains a cornerstone of its strategy. Although Israeli forces have destroyed up to 85% of the tunnels in critical areas like Rafah and Khan Yunis, Hamas still retains hundreds of miles of underground passages. This is a basic timeline of what started this endless war in the Middle East without taking sides. Let's take a look at what happened in the recent past couple of years. 2023, October 7 massacre. Hamas, the Iran-backed group controlling Gaza, launched a surprise attack on over 20 Israeli communities. The assault was strategically executed using a combination of rockets, paragliders, motorcycles, and other vehicles to penetrate Israel Defense Forces. This coordinated attack aimed to cause maximum disruption and casualties within a short period of time. The sudden escalation of violence also drew Hezbollah, the largest non-state actor in the Middle East, into the conflict from Lebanon. Let's dive into the details of how the attack on Israel happened into 4 simplified parts of the operations. Part 1. In the initial phase of the operation, the stage was set for a dramatic and intense start. At around 6:30 in the morning, a staggering 3,000 rockets was launched from Gaza. This onslaught featured a wide array of rockets, including the distinctive homemade Qassam and the potent Iranian-made Fajr rockets. The Iron Dome missile defense system sprang into action to counter almost 60% of the rockets, animated in our recent video. Simultaneously, the skies near the border crackled with powered hang gliders and motorized paragliders and infiltrated the border. These unconventional flying machines serve as an unexpected element of surprise, challenging the air defense system. After the fighters aboard the hang gliders landed, they secured the surrounding terrain, enabling an elite commando unit to subsequently breach the fortified electronic and cement wall constructed by Israel. Part 2. At 7:30, a critical juncture of the operation unfolded as fighters executed a coordinated entry into Israeli territory near the Kerem Shalom crossing. This crossing held immense significance as it served as a pivotal checkpoint between Israel and Gaza, symbolizing a breach into the heart of Israeli territory. Simultaneously, another group of determined fighters launched an assault on Israel's Erez border crossing station. With calculated precision, they employed explosives to shatter the formidable barriers that had stood in their way. Following this daring act, they swiftly sped across the border on motorbikes. Further enhancing their advance, bulldozers were deployed to widen the gaps created by the explosive breaches, facilitating the influx of even more fighters. These additional reinforcements made their entry into Israeli territory aboard 4-wheel drives, steadily expanding their presence within the enemy's borders. The stage was set for a multifaceted and meticulously coordinated operation as they continued their mission deep within Israeli territory. Part 3. A commando unit attacked the Israeli army's southern Gaza headquarters and jammed its communications, thus preventing personnel from calling their commanders or each other. Part 4. The final part involved moving hostages to Gaza, mostly achieved early in the attack meant for a prisoner exchange. Israel then responded with airstrikes, taking the lives of many Palestinians, both civilians and fighters. To help you understand the basic IDF strategy, let's divide Gaza into 5 parts. We start with North Gaza, then move on to Gaza, followed by Deir al-Balah, Khan Yunis, and finally Rafah and this crossing towards Egypt. And a quick recap. Since Hamas' attack on October 7, the IDF has invaded Gaza from almost all sides by land, sea, and air. Firstly, invading Gaza from the north and progressing to central Gaza, while instructing Gazans to move to the south. There are various crossings that the IDF controls, mainly the Kerem Shalom, and Hamas controls Rafah. This is probably one of the last major crossings the IDF wants to clear and control, since the rockets were fired from Rafah at its soldiers near the Kerem Shalom crossing. But now here is the catch. Remember, IDF instruction to move to the south. Gazans are now instructed to move to humanitarian zones towards the north. We make original videos from scratch, so please do subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos.